Hello, I'm APX Toycat, and in 2010, when Minecraft had just 31 items, we had 36 inventory slots. In 2023, Minecraft has literally hundreds of items, with more than 36 added last year alone, and indeed plans for more than 36 in the next update, and we have just 36 inventory slots. The game literally bombards you with new stuff, but yet doesn't offer you a way to deal with it, or at least that's how the community sees it. Is an inventory update really warranted, given we already have shulker boxes? Well, this video is going to be 3 parts: the problem and the steps Minecraft has been taking to address it, as well as what will happen if they do not do so for yet another update, and finally, what would actually work as a solution. 1.21 offers so many opportunities with the trial chambers, and I really hope Mojang takes them, but first of all, I want to really show you the problem with the inventory, like so. I could make this point very quickly by just pointing to the number of blocks and items there are now. However, if you are from Mojang, you might fairly say that actually, even though there's 20 times as many blocks, it's not like you're using them all on the same builds in survival. No one is making a house that is using 4 types of copper, 6 types of deep slate, 3 types of stone, all of the types of wood, and also 9 types of concrete. That would be ridiculous and isn't realistically happening. And to that, I would say, yeah, Mojang's been doing a great job at addressing the inventory crisis. Let me show you the steps they've been taking. The first step has been to add a bunch of useless items that you can pick up by accident while roaming through the biomes. Wheat seeds were the classic for this, but now you can get all sorts of flowers, as well as sweet berries, and of course, who can forget the classic sticks? You will be getting random items while roaming across the Minecraft world, whether you like it or not. Step 2 has been to massively improve the mining experience. No longer do you just find stone, the single block, but instead, if you want to make a simple staircase down, you're going to be running into at least 5 different types of blocks from several different, not enough to get, major enoughs and do things with, but instead just enough to clutter up your inventory with blocks that you might need later, but you're not really sure about right now. Absolutely love to see that, by the way. Also, they've made it very, very clear that when you find loot chests, though loot chests should have items that are just about valuable enough that you want to take them, but not so valuable that you must make space for them, and so you want to have a big crisis about what is worth keeping and what's not. Also, this is a very, very crucial one. When it comes to crafting, Minecraft needs to make, they've done a very good job in making sure that when you take, say, wood and you try to craft it in something, it doesn't craft in even numbers. Instead, no, if you want to make yourself some stairs, what you're going to need to do, if you want to make yourself some stairs, then what you're going to need to do is make some planks and then use 6 of those planks to make 4 stairs, ensuring that you always have multiple spare blocks while trying to craft the one you actually want. Oh, also, this has been a very, very big important step. They've made sure that more and more mobs get a useless drop that you're going to pick up at some point. So spiders used to just have string, then they gave them the spider eyes. For example, zombies used to just have feathers, now they have rotten flesh, which is everyone's favorite drop they want all the time. Oh, by the way, zombies don't just have rotten flesh, they also have, everyone knows the slightly lesser known drops, but they also have potatoes and carrots and also iron, and long story short, is there's a lot of drops that all of these mobs get. I mean, sugar from witches is a weird one, water bottles is a weird one, and even the few mobs that do have just a single drop like the phantoms, they make sure that it's a drop that you can't make use of in the early game, so instead it sits there in your inventory for as long as you could possibly need and makes you feel real bad about yourself. This is indeed the multi-pronged strategy that Minecraft has been working on since 2010, and they've been doing a very good job at it, except actually I would go as far as to say these are all doing the opposite of solving the problems, especially when you consider how many tools are now considered basically essential in the day-to-day game, whether that's buckets of lava or water, whether that's shears, the fishing rod. There's so many items that you kind of need while running around the Minecraft world, while also running into so many more variants of every item you'd otherwise pick up. And so basically I'm actually saying that Minecraft hasn't done a very good job of controlling the inventory problem, and in fact have done all of those things to do the opposite. Wow, have I pointed out the problem with sarcasm? I think I might have. I mean, they might as well just have been doing this for all that they've actually been achieving. Oh my god, there's so many random potions. This is effectively what Minecraft has been doing and saying that there is no problem whatsoever. There has been one tiny attempt at the solution, which is the shulker box, but that's mostly meant for traveling a large number of stacks of items over long distances and doesn't actually help with the number of individual items that you can carry and conveniently access. Oh god, we're down here. Indeed, the only attempt attempt to do that was with the bundle, something they have since dropped. They have admitted there is a problem, they have worked on a solution, but when that solution didn't work for mobile devices, they instead haven't come up with another one, something I think they clearly need to do before 1.21, because what could go wrong if they don't? Everything. Literally everything will get worse if Minecraft doesn't solve the inventory crisis, because effectively by doing nothing, they are decreasing the size of the inventory and also making every single other part of the game harder or downright less interesting. And to explain why, let's explain the inventory throughput and how it has been effectively going down in every single update. Imagine you have just one item in all of Minecraft. Imagine we're actually playing Dirtcraft, and so there's just one block that you can collect and it stacks up to 64. Your inventory capacity is always 2,304, because when you encounter an item, you always have space for it until you have a full stack of 64 in every single slot. Now imagine there are two items in Minecraft. We're playing Cave Game and, there's cobblestone in there as well. Now, in theory, you can get 2,304 blocks, but in practice, if you have a stack of just one dirt sticking there, then you won't be able to pick up any of the cobblestone, no matter how much you mine. You have to give up on an entire stack of cobblestone and decrease your inventory space by 63, or you can drop that dirt. In either case, it doesn't feel very good, and if you imagine 3 or 4 or 5 blocks, the problems start to stack up and up and up, and there aren't just 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 blocks in Minecraft. Instead, there are now hundreds of blocks, meaning every single time you add a new one, you are decreasing the number of blocks that you can actually hold. Slowly but surely, the amount of effort that is required to manage an inventory is going up, and this burden is going to every player to decide between having the items which are most valuable and the items which are most abundant. Maybe that's an interesting gameplay decision for the purpose of decorating your garden, but I think where it starts to become a problem is when you get to exploration and when you get to every other aspect of the game, where actually, going on a mining trip is much less fun because you can only store so many ores and you have to start thinking about the value of everything relative to each other versus just going and collecting a whole inventory worth and coming back with it. The same is going to be true for going and exploring a ancient city, because when you're in there, it's a big pain to work out, do you really need this second pair of diamond leggings? I mean, if you don't pick it up, you would instead be able to pick up a bunch of different torches or maybe a regeneration potion. The more unique items there are, the harder decisions you're having to make all the time across the game, and this is an especially big problem when it comes to the exploration of new structures, which is where the trial chambers is going to run into issues, because the point of the trial chambers is they're luring you in with brand new items. Whether that's the hugely abundant copper, seriously, this is going to be one of the best ways to get your hands on large numbers of copper blocks, but also it is all of the fun things that are going to be found within. Whatever the trial spawners offer, right now it's diamonds and emeralds, alongside whatever it is that the breezes drop on top of the stray drops, on top of literally everything else, they're going to be giving you new reasons specifically to come here. Minecraft can only remix the same loot around across different structures so many times. At this point, there are so many places that you can find diamonds, there are so many places you can find iron, and so to make new structures interesting, they have to give you new loot. Except if they're adding more and more unique pieces of loot, it makes the decision of what you grab and what you don't even harder, which is why I think that if they're going to add new unique items, especially if they're non-stackable, because that is an even bigger problem Minecraft hasn't been dealing with, it's going to have people going, yeah, this could be used for something cool down the line, but I ultimately don't want it right now, and that's the opposite of what you need. You want people, when they're going into a new structure, to be so excited for all the possibilities and for the big limit on their abilities in that structure, especially when it's something so dungeon-based as the trial chambers. The limitation should be based on your ability to slay monsters, solve puzzles, and find loot, not on your ability to perfectly micromanage the chest, because Minecraft is at its best when you feel powerful and like you have agency and you are making the decisions on how your world is changing, not when you have to think that you're playing an inventory management game and there's so much you've got to move around, which is the big problem they are working towards with currently no real solution. Although, that brings us to the question of what would work as an actual solution to this, because I could make a fun argument that actually every update making Minecraft's inventory more tense is a good thing. It's making you have to make decisions. I recently started a playthrough where I only get one block or item every single day in Minecraft, and having to decide what that block would be is actually really challenging. Every 10 minutes effectively, or 20 if you don't sleep, you get just one item, and it means you get some really insane situations where you really want to go for just the one item that can move forward the game. I'm getting very close to going to the end, by the way. It's a really silly little challenge, challenge, but the idea can be expanded to the rest of Minecraft. What if instead of 1 item a day, it's now 20 items where it used to be 30? That can make Minecraft change over time without anyone actively trying to, but I also think that this is a negative effect. If Minecraft does nothing, the game is changing in a way that no one wants and no one is even intending to, which is why I think they need to work on a solution. And so what could they do? I'm glad you asked. There is precisely one thing we can say definitely isn't a solution, and that is the bundle. This was an idea originally intended for the Caves and Cliffs update, but it was removed from the game because it would not work on all platforms and they did not like the end design, and this tells us that although Mojang thinks early game inventory management really needs some work, the bundle is not going to be the solution. And so what actually could be? There's a few very decent ideas. One of those is obviously taking the shulker box and bringing it earlier into the game. I don't think this could be realistically done because shulker shells really should only be found where the shulkers are, which is currently one of the most late game sections of Minecraft. So instead what they could do is take one of the most popular feedback suggestions ever, which has 32,900 votes, and that is to add backpacks to the game. Adding such a popular idea is such a no-brainer that they have already committed to putting it under review, which means that they are looking at how they could add it to the game, either on a game design level or even on a physical mechanic level, but the idea is very popular, and so of course you might say, we've solved it. This whole video could have been explained by saying add the backpack, except actually even though 32,900 people agree, every single one of those people probably has a slightly different idea of how it could be implemented. I mean, the first idea is you craft something from leather that goes onto your chestplate piece, so instead of deciding just between chestplate and elytra, now it could be between chestplate, elytra, and backpack, and then that could give you an extra row to your inventory. I think this is a great idea, but I also think that it could be done via an enchantment on existing chestplates or another piece of gear, or I think it could be done even more interestingly as an offhand item slot. Right now, the offhand slot is near exclusively used, especially on Bedrock, as a Totem of Undying slot, but wouldn't it be more fun if there were actually competitive options in there? And so something that could give you a few inventory options worth of space would be very, very interesting. They've actually done something like this if we were to bring back an old idea, the quiver, which used to look something like this and was almost brought back for the original combat update. By the way, I know it's really weird to talk about the combat update now that we're getting a second one 7 years later, but the original combat update was going to add the quiver and then they couldn't quite get the mechanics to work, but the idea of storing multiple types of arrow in one slot is a really compelling idea that they almost revisited for the bundle, and so it gets me thinking, what if they could do inventory management that wasn't limited to an item? The reason the quiver failed is because why would you hold it? The reason the bundle failed is because opening and closing it is actually kind of messy. Why don't they actually just do more efficient things with the existing slots, specifically so that they don't need to add an enchantment or a backpack or just an entire new row of inventory space, because ultimately the more inventory spaces you have, the more confusing the game gets. I think Stardew Valley does something really fun where you slowly unlock more inventory space, but I think in Minecraft it's better to have it all from the get-go and instead just make inventory slots work more effectively. This would be an easy sell because Minecraft's current inventory doesn't really have any realism to it. Everyone loves the fact that I've covered here indeed a few times that Steve can carry 356 million kilograms worth of stuff, and this works because you can either carry 36 fishing rods, which easily, I think anyone could do, or you can carry enough blocks to cover the surface area of several million square meters. It just depends on what you decide to store in there, and so why don't they work on the non-stackable items? Because they are ultimately one of the big problems. Indeed, the combat update, the earlier versions, the year-old snapshots, already have worked on the idea of stackable potions. This is a very small step, but an obvious one, but you could also take other non-stackable items that exist right now and work on making them stackable. So I do think that the idea of tools being stackable is a bit sacrilegious. You would never want to have 2 diamond pickaxes that you could use at once. Any tool that you're actively using in that way probably shouldn't be stacked together, but what if you could use your inventory, i.e. not your hotbar, but the actual inventory, to store certain non-stackables together? Lots of people find there's lots of value in having a flint and steel and a set of shears and having a fishing rod, for example. What if these items could just be stored together in one place? Maybe this could be a similar thing to how the bundle was going to work, except you don't need a physical item. You're just gonna right-click them together, they'd all move in there together, or you could use the crafting recipes even and just make it so any combination of these basic items stores together. I think that's a fun idea, but I also think there are many more solutions, because think about the world before we had shift clicking, or indeed before we had double clicking, or indeed double tapping A or pressing Y if you're on a controller. The world before those things was was terrible. You had to manually move things around. At one point in time, they feel like weird maneuvers, but now they're a standard part of how you use the inventory in your game, and they could do things like this. Just have a single button called the Organize button sitting somewhere to the right of your inventory, and when you press this button, it could automatically move things that are in similar stacks together so that you would make up more space. And maybe even a better idea would be have an automatic sort on the inventory, so you could have things move from either A to Z, or highest stacks to lowest stacks, or you could have any form of sorting system. Having something like this for chess would be incredible and put the game on par with Stardew Valley and many other games of a similar caliber, but having it for the inventory itself would be absolutely game-changing, and it's one of the many things I think that Minecraft needs to look at. I think having more late-game inventory slots would be a good idea. I think having to trade off for them is not actually that terrible, but I think something that's much more important than backpacks or bundles or even quivers is obviously having a better inventory solution from the get-go. This is something that could affect every single Minecraft player, and this is something that will lead to a revolution in how you deal with the game. I think every single non-fun problem that Minecraft creates, they should be working on solving themselves so that you as the player can be left to the fun things. And indeed, if we're making comparisons to games, just one more I'd like to make is that the trial chambers feel very Legend of Zelda-esque, right? You move into dungeons rooms, sometimes you have to slay monsters, sometimes you're gonna have to solve puzzles. Right now, it is most similar to the Legend of Zelda series. I feel like Minecraft is at its best when it's inspired by games the team like, and so if they're going to be inspired in this way, something that game series does is slowly unlock you new weapons and tools, and new bottles even to store new potions and stuff. And so if you take a leaf out of their book, maybe there should be something you can find in this structure that would slightly increase your inventory size. If I was to go really, really crazy, I would say, what if every single time you clear out a trial chambers, you unlock a new inventory space, or 2 or 3, and then you could slowly increase your inventory size so that it starts at just 36 slots. But maybe if you take down enough trial chambers, maybe you could have 45 inventory slots, or maybe even you could go up to 54. The sky is the limit for the thinking on what you do here, but if you want to make this new structure not just interesting, not just sought after, but something that every player thinks when they get into a new Minecraft world they can't wait to do, in the same way that going to the end is a new dimension that's unlocked, or going to the Nether is an entirely new way to travel your Minecraft world, maybe finding the trial chambers could be the secret to inventory management, and so they could solve the problem that they're creating with the very same structure that's doing so. That is me thinking a little pie in the sky. I think realistically we'll see some version of a backpack, but I would love it if there was some way to increase the inventory size, whether that was permanently, whether that was with an enchantment, even if it's with a beacon effect, and so it just helps you out when you're working on big projects. Minecraft needs to realize that it's not the same game it was all those years ago, and that at some point the inventory needs to be more effective and maybe even straight up bigger. Ultimately, that is just my opinion though, as someone who does enjoy limited inventory challenges and understands that there is some small element of the game that you're adding. I just think that you take away much more than you add, and in those sorts of times, that is a time for a Minecraft update to come in and make things better. In the same way that they're going to update the combat system, hopefully for the better. Some people won't like it, but more people will find it better and hopefully more interesting than the old one. They need to do the same with the inventory, and this is something that I wanted to say nice and early while they're still coming up with ideas and implementing new ones, because we've only seen a small part of this update, and hopefully in the part we haven't seen, there's going to be an inventory update, because Minecraft needs one, and I really think that they might have forgotten about it. But, maybe I'm selling them too short. We will have to see, and I will be doing so on this channel. Make sure you subscribe if you want to keep up to date with the latest Minecraft news and my opinions, and indeed my silly challenges, because at some point the 1 block a day challenge will be finished, and I'd love to share with all of you. And for now, thank you very much for watching, because I'll see you next time. Unless I don't. Unless you have a tragic house fire, that is. Goodbye.